Chanukah is a major celebration. It's a major celebration for all of us personally. We enjoy celebrating Chanukah. It's a lot of fun. Many different aspects of it. There's a very interesting drashas Chazal. Our sages teach us that Kol HaMayadim B'Telim La'asid Lavai Chutz Mechanukah Purim. That when Mashiach comes, in the world to come, in the time to come, with the coming of Mashiach, all the holidays will be abolished, aside for Chanukah and Purim. So what does this mean? No Yom Kippur, no Pesach, no Shavuos, no ice cream. What is this exactly?
Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot.
Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, everything. Kol HaMayadim B'Telim Chutz Mechanukah Purim. And this is not just some type of unknown quote. This is quoted by Rabbi Yosef Cairo. This is a serious quote from the Chacham, from the sages. So how do we understand it? I bring up this question of this saying of our sages, not just because I'm so concerned with how to understand this idea, but in order for us to appreciate the celebration of Chanukah beyond the latkes, and that's important, and beyond the dreidel, and beyond the Chanukah gelt, and all of that is very important. But we know that the way we celebrate Chanukah, the takana of the Chachamim of celebrating Chanukah, the mitzvah of Chanukah, is to light Chanukah candles. So we need to understand exactly what the greatness and the magnitude, the value of these candles, what exactly they represent, what exactly they mean, what type of message they convey. We many times focus on the message, the miracle of Chanukah, the victory of the weak over the strong, the few over the few over the many, and so on and so forth, the pure over the impure, and all these different messages of Chanukah, the victory of the Maccabees over the Greeks, over the Greek Assyrians. And this is a very significant and a beautiful part of Chanukah, the victory of the Chashmonaim, the Maccabees, over their Greek oppressors. Very significant, very important, very true. But Chanukah is much more than that. And as we see in the celebration of Chanukah, and particularly with the celebration of lighting Chanukah candles, that has nothing really to do with the victory marches or wars or battles. It's to do more with the miracle of the menorah that happened in the Beis HaMikdash. So I want to focus, I think that it's important to focus on the deeper spiritual significance of the Chanukah candles. And the best way of doing it is by looking at what our sages say about Chanukah and the different Mamari Chazal and different takanas, different things that we're supposed to do on Chanukah that were established by our sages, as well as different ideas that they taught with regards to Chanukah. And through that, I believe that we'll be able to get a better understanding of what the Chanukah candles are all about. So when we light them, it's not just in order to remember the miracle that happened in the Beis HaMikdash, as important and significant as it is, but to understand the energy and the idea of what we're trying to do. What type of light are we trying to kindle within ourselves? So once again, by seeing such a statement, of the sages that all the holidays will be abolished aside for Chanukah and Purim, it obviously teaches us, it shows us there's something very significant that our sages apply, something much more significant to Chanukah and Purim than they do to the rest of the Yom Tovim. How so? What are they trying to say? So there are different commentators that discuss this. Famous Ridvaz, one of the major commentators, says that a very interesting interpretation, that the energy of Chanukah is so powerful, is so profound, that even when the Mashiach comes, And the joy and revelation and celebration of Hashem will be constant. What is great and what is special about the coming of Mashiach, the days of Mashiach? Hashem will be king upon the entire universe, entire world, that everybody will recognize the authority and the oneness of Hashem. This means that we will have a real recognition, a real appreciation of what Hashem is and who Hashem is. All mankind will have this, and when we will see this, obviously we will celebrate it. Just like it is within our lives today, that when we perceive Hashem, so to speak, whether it's on Yom Kippur or Simchas Torah, or on a Wednesday afternoon, when you suddenly had a moment, so to speak, with Hashem, that causes joy, that causes celebration in one's life. And so too when Mashiach comes, we will constantly have, many times more so, we will have this constant revelation. This constant revelation will give us constant joy. We will be celebrating. That's why it says that when Mashiach comes, we will truly be laughing. Our mouths will be filled with laughter. What type of laughter? Very funny jokes. Laughter of true joy. We will experience true peace, true joy, true celebration. The Chachamim tell us that despite the fact that there will be constant joy, and this joy will be so powerful, the constant joy that we will experience with the coming of Mashiach will be so powerful that on a certain level it'll drown the joy of all the Yomim Tovim. So sure, we will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah. That's one of the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit, that mitzvahs could never stop unless circumstances change. For example, we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, so we can't bring karbanos. But technically we're still obligated to bring a korban, right? Offerings. So mitzvahs never change. Definitely not when Mashiach comes. So when we say that all the holidays will be abolished, we don't mean that we will stop blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, that we, God forbid, won't be eating apple dipped in honey on Rosh Hashanah. Surely that will continue happening. However, there will be such great joy in the rest of the year that Rosh Hashanah will be another one of those days, so to speak. They say a story with regards. It's applied to the Kotzker Chassidim. The Kotzker Rebbe, Mendel of Kotzk, was known as a very, very sharp man. There's some fantastic quotes from him. I many times wonder if they're actually all from him, or sometimes when people just look for someone that they need to tag on to, tag a great quote to, because he's known for saying some fantastic things, so they just tag all these quotes onto him. But definitely a very sharp man, and a big tzaddik. And his chassidim, he had a very unique style of leadership. His chassidim were also very unique chassidim, very passionate chassidim. So they tell a story that a few the two chassidim, the two Kotzker chassidim, were once in shul before Kol Nidre, before Yom Kippur, and they conversing between each other, and they were discussing about, they were talking about Kol Nidre. So this was the night before Kol Nidre, and they were talking about, what time, they were talking about Kol Nidre, but the way they were referring to it was, where are you going to be davening Ma'ariv tomorrow? Or what time are you going to be coming for davening Ma'ariv? They were referring to Kol Nidre as Ma'ariv. And then a little while later, they were talking about Pesach, so where are you having a dinner tomorrow night? And there was someone in there that heard them talking, said, I don't understand you. What are you? Every single Jew knows Kol Nidre, one of the most awesome moments in the Jewish calendar, when every Jew trembles. Ma'ariv? You're just referring to it just as another evening service? Kol Nidre, the start of Yom Kippur. Pesach, who doesn't refer to the first night of Pesach, the Pesach Seder? We all know, you sit down for a Pesach Seder, you refer to it as another dinner. When are you having dinner? Where are you having dinner? How could you be so careless with these most fundamental moments on the Jewish calendar? So they say that one of these Chassidim answered that when you serve Hashem all year, the way you're supposed to, every single night Ma'ariv is just as awesome and just as powerful as what you refer to as the Kol Nidrei night, and every single meal, dinner meal that you eat is just as holy and just as significant as a Pesach Seder. Because when your relationship with Hashem is not as it should be, so you have certain moments when you have fantastic, very strong, intense moments with Hashem. So Kol Nidrei, Seder, or different times. But when your service of Hashem is constant, and constantly the way it's supposed to be, then obviously Pesach becomes just like any other dinner, and Kol Nidrei becomes like another Ma'ariv. Not to downplay Kol Nidrei or Ma'ariv or the Pesach Seder, but to point out how everything else is just as significant. Hashem is the same Hashem the night before Yom Kippur and the night after Yom Kippur. And the evening service that we pray the night before Yom Kippur or the night after Yom Kippur has to be, we stand before the same Hashem, and we have to realize who we are and before whom we're standing, no different than on Yom Kippur.
Can I ask a question? From one point of view, I understand this, that the Hagim are there to increase our awareness of certain things, whether it's the time of our freedom or the time of our joy, the time of receiving Torah. But don't we understand that at these times, and especially Shabbos, that the universe is a different place? It's not simply marking something on the calendar. There actually is a difference in the universe.
That's true.
At those times.
That's true. That's true. Shabbos more so than the Yom Tovim, but the Yom Tovim as well carry their own unique energy and message.
The Pesach happens when it happens because the universe was right for it at that moment.
Very true.
It's not the reverse, I think, isn't it? So that, because this quote, right, always troubled me for that reason.
I understand. The point being is that there's an idea of Pnimius and Chitzonius. There's an idea of what is the essence and what are the superficial matters. Sometimes when a person's relationship with Hashem is so real that the revelations, as great as they are, become secondary. I'm so connected to Hashem, and the revelation, how much He reveals of Himself to me, is somewhat secondary to the relationship. When you're so connected to somebody else, when you love somebody so much, that what they do, what they don't do for you, what they tell you about themselves, what they don't tell you about themselves, it's not as significant anymore. So the point is not that those days are not days of celebration, but when the relationship with Hashem is so real and so focused, so intense, and focused so much on the essence of Hashem, that what happens, so to speak, on the outside, on the different revelations or the different experiences, become secondary.
I heard once, maybe this is an apt metaphor, from a rabbi who had a class with married couples. And he said the married couples that are married for a year, if you ask them what it is about each other, if they got married, they have a list. I love the way he does this, or she does that for me, or whatever. He said the longer they are, by the time they're 50 years old, right, they actually don't have a reason. They just love each other.
They're just one.
Right? They can't give, it's because of this, right? So maybe that's
exactly the idea.
Is the idea.
When you become one, we're going to talk about that tonight. That when you become one with something, there's no desire for it anymore. Not because you lost the desire, because there's no need for the desire.
It.
You're there.
Yeah.
You have it already. So there is a certain point where you need to have certain revelations and certain, the dog and pony show, and because what's going to bring you in otherwise? What are you going to excited? What are you going to get excited about? What are you going to be happy about? What are you going to be sad about? What are you going to be remorseful about? But at a certain point when you're there, not because the relationship becomes insignificant, but because the relationship is so much deeper that, you do what you're supposed to do, you recognize the energy of the moment, but that's not it.
Right.
There's something deeper than that going on. And according to the Ridvaz, this is what happens when Mashiach comes with regards to all the Yom Tovim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and so on and so forth, aside for Chanukah and Purim. Chanukah and Purim maintain their unique energy, that despite having great revelation of godliness throughout the whole year, they will maintain their unique status, in shining with an intense energy that the rest of the Yom Tovim will not have. So there will be something greater on those days than the rest of the year. That's one interpretation. The Rashba gives a different interpretation, quite on the opposite side of the spectrum. Rashba says that Lashon Lavi really refers to the time of Galus, the time of exile. And he says that all the rest of the Yom Tovim will become downplayed. They will become, so to speak, insignificant, because people will be suffering so much. They will be having so much pain. But Chanukah and Purim will maintain their status. Chanukah and Purim will still be celebrated despite the difficulty of Golus, despite the challenges that one experiences in Golus. A very unique interpretation. It needs some clarification, but I figured I'd share it tonight. But what we see from here, regardless of which way we look at what is the meaning of the statement, that there's something unique in Chanukah and Purim. We definitely understand that what is unique about Chanukah is the light of the candles. The Chanukah candles that we'll be lighting. So what is it? What is so special about it? I would like to take the answer from a non-suspecting source. Not sure if that's the proper term, but we'll go there, and I think you'll understand what I mean. On Shabbos, we all know we have the Torah reading, and then we have the prophetic reading. We have the Navi. On special occasions, the prophetic reading on a regular basis, the prophetic reading that we read on Shabbos is connected somehow with the parsha of the week. On special occasions, the prophetic reading is connected with the special occasion. So, what do we have on Chanukah? We have, which we'll be reading this Shabbos, is a haftarah, is a chapter, or part of two chapters from Zechariah. Zachary, I think, is his other name. Yeah?
Or Zechariah.
Zechariah. Zachary is his nickname. That's what his friends call him. And this begins with a pasuk, Rani v'simchi bas Tzion. Rani v'simchi bas Tzion. Sing and rejoice, the daughter of Zion. And this is a beautiful haftarah that speaks about God's promise of the Geula. It's always very nice to hear such a prophecy. But the question begs itself as to why we talk about it on Chanukah. We should always be talking about the promise of redemption. That's always uplifting, that's always inspiring, it's always meaningful. Why is it that on Chanukah we read this haftarah? And the truth of the matter is that it appears that the reason that we read it is because later on in the haftarah we read about the menorah that was lit in the Beis HaMikdash. Zechariah speaks a prophecy, and I've seen the menorah of 7 branches standing in the Holy Temple, and so on and so forth. Menorah of gold standing in the holy temple and it being lit. Beautiful description, which refers to the coming of the coming of Mashiach, when the third Beis Hamikdash will be built and the menorah will be lit. So if the connection is the menorah being lit and Chanukah, we light the menorah. That's a very nice connection, and we celebrate the lighting of the menorah that took place, the miraculous lighting menorah that took place during Chanukah. It's a beautiful connection, but why then does the Haftarah not start from that section? Why do we begin with a number of verses earlier, which speaks about something that seemingly is totally not connected to Chanukah? Rani v'simchi bas tzion, rejoice, sing and rejoice because my light is coming, because I'm going to be taking you out of exile. That's a beautiful message, but what does it have to do with Chanukah? Seemingly there's no connection between the two. What kind of connection is there? So let's focus a little bit on the words of Zechariah, and perhaps if we focus carefully on what the words say and what the words mean, we will understand why it is connected to Chanukah, and when we understand why it is connected to Chanukah, we'll also understand what is so special and what is so powerful about the lights of Chanukah. Rani v'simchi bas tzion. God is speaking to the Jewish people, and He tells them, rejoice, because the redemption is coming. Rani means sing, simchi means rejoice. But Rani could also mean rejoice. It says that the Malachim sing, Rina, they rejoice, Rinon, in connection, in their rejoicing with Hashem. Rina and Simcha, one could say, are two very closely related words. They don't necessarily describe a whole different type of joy. Hashem could have very easily said, Zechariah could have very easily said, Simchi bas tzion, rejoice, daughter of Zion, because my light is coming, and so on and so forth. Why is it necessary to have both words, Rani and Simchi? They seem to be two different, two of the same words. We know that every word that the prophets said, is a message from Hashem. But not just that, every single word, especially those that were recorded and carefully recorded, have a unique message for us today. So what is unique about this Rani v'simchi? Rejoice and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Why is it necessary to have both these words? Question number one. Question number two. Bas tzion, the daughter of Zion. Daughter of Zion? We're usually called Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, and now we're suddenly referred to as Bas tzion, the daughter of Zion. Why the switch? Why the change? Why are we suddenly referred to as Bas, the daughter? Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying. It's okay, but it's good to have consistency. Right? There's obviously something unique over here that tells us that Zechariah is telling us, in which he refers to us as Bas tzion, the daughter of Zion. He refers to all of Klal Yisrael, the entire nation of Israel, as the daughter of Zion. Why so? So let's take one question at a time. Rani and Simchi. Why these two words? The Zohar sheds some light. There's a very famous pasuk, a famous verse from the Torah, in which it says, "Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, bayu lefanav bernana." Again, what does this pasuk mean? Come before God with joy. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy, bayu lefanav bernana, come to Him with song. Apparently, one would think that once again over here the pasuk is just being poetic, writing it nicely. Don't just say serve Hashem with joy. Say it with some flavor. Say it with some, with some contrast, with some expressing it a bit more, with some more words. What is the emphasis on serving Hashem with joy and coming to Him with song? Says the Zohar, give you a quote, Rinana beramsha, simcha betzafra. Sing at night, rejoice during the day. So somehow there's a connection between Rina and the night, and Simcha and the day. Rina, the singing somehow at night, and the Simcha, the rejoicing during the day. Even though the singing that we're referring to is not just some type of sad song, some type of melancholy, this is a singing of joy. So there's joy at night and there's joy of day. The joy of night is referred to as Rina, as singing, and the joy of day is referred to as Simcha, as rejoicing. What does this mean exactly? And what is the difference between the two?
Okay.
What does this mean exactly? So we'll pause for a moment and we'll speak a little bit about day and night from the perspective of Kabbalah. And we'll start first with a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah that says, the first Mishnah in the entire Talmud, in Tractate of Brachas, begins with Me'emasai Kern Shema Be'arvis. When do we read Shema at night? What does the next chapter begin with? Emasai Kern Shema Be'shachris. When do we recite Shema in the morning? As we know, there's a biblical commandment to recite Shema twice every single day, in the morning and in the evening. Right? So the Mishnah begins with, what's step number one? The first thing that the first Mishnah in the entire Talmud, the entire Mishnah, the first Mishnah that we're concerned with, the first thing that we're concerned with is when, at what time, what is the proper time of reading the Shema at night? And then the next chapter begins with, when is the proper time of reciting Shema in the morning? Why so? Why do we start with the night? Why not with the day? What's the reason for that? So the Talmud gives two reasons. You choose whichever you like better. The Talmud says they're both based on different psukim, on different verses in the Torah. Verse number 1 is from the Shema itself. When God commands us to love Hashem with all our heart, with all our soul, we recite this in the Mahavta, and it says that we're obligated to study words of Torah, when you sit in your house and when you travel on the road, when you lie down to bed, and when you wake up in the morning. Aha! So what does the Torah tell us first? When you lie down in bed. And therefore, the Mishnah says, and therefore we also begin with the nighttime, and then we move on to the daytime. That's one pasuk. An additional pasuk, right in the beginning of creation of the world. God creates Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. God creates heaven and earth. And then the Torah tells us, Vayi erev, vayi boker. It was evening and it was morning. So the Torah, when the Torah has a choice of an evening and a morning, which one does the Torah use? First, the evening, and then the morning. Aha! So the Mishnah says. So we follow what happens in the Torah. This seems to be okay. There are okay answers in the Gemara, but this seems to be very technical. It's like, okay, fine, but that doesn't really explain it to me. So this explains a very fascinating idea, and I find to be a very powerful idea that sheds light on all the different questions and the issues that we're bringing up, and will shed light into the idea of Chanuka as well. The night represents darkness, confusion, challenges, golus, exile, difficulty, emptiness, all the different types of challenges that we experience.
Lack of light, absence of light.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Okay, hidden light.
It represents an emptiness, a challenge, a darkness that we experience. And this is true, this is necessary for us in order to experience something. You could have a lot of wealth around you, but until you're lacking something, you will not really appreciate that which you have. You can have a lot of information. That's why when you study something, it is important to know if to have a problem first, and when you have a problem, I'm talking about a rational problem, an intellectual problem, and then when you're given the solution, you appreciate the answer much more if someone just gives you information. If someone tells you answers to problems without you knowing the problems, you don't necessarily appreciate the information. When you have a difficulty, you have a challenge, you don't understand something, and then you're given an answer, that's when you truly appreciate that piece of information. When you don't have a challenge, you don't experience the redemption. You don't experience the answer. The answer doesn't talk to you as much. This is also true in different types of revelations of Hashem. Different types of revelations of Torah. There are different levels of understanding of Torah. Some would say, you know what, let me just jump straight to the meat. You can't. In order to appreciate the light, Torah teaches us, in order for you to appreciate light, you have to first go through a stage of darkness. A stage of darkness could mean a basic understanding of Torah, and when you have a basic understanding of Torah and you learn it once and twice, and they say, you know what, there's something, I want to have something deeper, and then you suddenly see a deeper understanding of Torah. That's, aha, this is beautiful. But if one would jump straight to the light, you wouldn't appreciate it. It wouldn't mean anything to you. It would be insignificant. And this is true of any of our experiences. That in order for us to experience light properly, we have to go through a moment of darkness. In order for us to appreciate light, we need to go through a moment of darkness. And through darkness, through challenges, and this is a Jewish perspective on darkness and challenges that we might experience in our life. Through having challenges and darknesses, we don't see them as a moment in life which we should try to delete, but we see them as springboards to a greater form of living. And this is Ranana Baramsha and Simcha B'Tzafra. This is the Ranana, the Rina that we're talking about. Rani V'Simchi. The Rina that we're talking about is the joy that one has, or the feeling that one has when he's in the moment of darkness. You're yearning for Hashem, and let's talk about in the context of our relationship with Hashem. Rina, you're singing for Hashem, you're yearning for Hashem, just like the angels, that they sing to Hashem and refer to Rina as in a number of places. Why do the angels sing about Hashem? Because they're, so to speak, on the outside. They're in the darkness. They're not one with Hashem. And therefore they yearn, they sing, they talk about Hashem. When you when you're standing before the king, you don't say anything. You're just overwhelmed. You're in awe. You're experiencing, when you're standing before a true king, you're experiencing a moment you can't even say a word. Only after you leave, that's when you're able to speak. Wow, the king said this. This is what his chambers looked like. This is what his guards looked like. This is what the experience was like. So at the moment of truth, at the point of at the core point, when you're at the center of this energy, there's no singing, there's no talking, there's nothing. So when you're in a moment of darkness, that's when you can sing, and that's when you yearn, and that's when you rejoice. And then from there, one goes to Simcha, the greater level of joy. So the Rina, Rani v'Simchi, sing and rejoice, refers to these two stages that we all experience in our life. We must experience in our life. Not, God forbid, in a in a physically challenging way or an emotionally challenging way, but in a spiritually challenging way, where we have a moment of darkness, where we don't see, or even if we do see, we desire to see and to experience a much greater revelation. And then the point of that is to have the Yom, to have the clarity of the day, to have the revelations that we're all looking for. That's the Simcha. And this is the reason that we read this Haftarah on Chanukah. Because this is the whole idea of Chanukah. Chanukah is not just about extending purity, celebrating purity, but celebrating purity, celebrating holiness, celebrating the light in the dark places. You know, according to halacha, for those that one either lights towards the outside, towards the darkness of the outside street, or others light, and this is a Chabad custom, to light inside the house, but on what side of the door do you light? You light the menorah on the left side. Right? The mezuzah is on the right, and the menorah is on the left. Why so? Why so? Mezuzah is made for the inside. Mezuzah is made for the residence of a home. The mezuzah is made for the home, extending God's energy and holiness and purity within the home. And that's why it's on the right. According to Kabbalah, what does the right symbolize? What does the right represent? Chesed, kindness. There are no obstacles, there are no challenges. It's just a flow of kindness, of generosity, of blessing. That's why the mezuzah is put on the right side. What is Chanukah? What are the lights of Chanukah? They represent fighting with the darkness of the world. Fighting with the outside forces. Not just the outside in the street, but the outside within ourselves. And therefore, where are they placed? On the left side. What is left, according to Kabbalah, represents Gvura, severity, power, strength, to overcome the darkness, to overcome the challenges, to overcome the emptiness. This is what the Chanukah menorah is all about. And this is why we begin the Haftarah with Rani V'Simchi. These two stages of experiencing God and godliness. And this also explains to us what is so powerful about this light. The lights of Chanukah have the ability to reach such a great stage and such a great revelation, such a great power, that it could overcome any challenges, that it could overcome any darkness. How so? Why so? It brings us into the time of day. It brings us in to the revelation, so to speak, of day. When one lights the menorah, one has the ability to remove any darkness that he might experience within himself because of the source of the light of Chanukah. The same source of light that we spoke about that will exist and will shine intensely with the coming of Massiach, that will overpower the regular revelations that we will all experience, the constant revelations that we will experience with the coming of Massiach. That same energy exists today with the candle lights that we light in our menorah. And therefore that has a strength to overcome any darkness. And this is the reason that we say this Haftarah on Shabbos Chanukah, Rani V'Simchi, rejoice, sing and rejoice. Sing at night in the darkness that you experience, and rejoice in the day. May we all experience the ultimate day, the ultimate light with Mashiach.